Well, I was talking on well, how we can use the isoquant and the budget line model, the model for long run labor market analysis in use to look upon the mechanization in 18th and 19th century. The mechanization in 18th and 19th century actually initially was accompanied with a large amount of unemployment and which might be also for the reason, but that's also of course a part of mechanization. In agricultural sector, the mechanization had made workers, number of peasants who were previously living in the rural area, not that much necessary. So many of those peasants were basically sent away from the villages and they end up in the cities and they were unemployed. And the industry, even though the demand for labor for the industry has increased, it could not absorb all those workers and provides also cheap labor. I mean, since it cannot absorb, it decreases the cost of labor in the industry has fallen down. But as a total, if you think agriculture and the industry together, we might assume that the demand for labor has fallen down, and that might be that could be explained in a way. By the fact that mechanization has made the capital cheaper, and as a result, in general, in agriculture especially, there are substitution of them from the labor to capital, and that effect in agriculture has been dominant for the whole labor market. Starting in 19th century, that trend has kind of reversed, and we had more. The population was more. The economy could absorb the population in the cities as labor force, and that could be explained as the scale effect becoming more dominant to the substitution effect. Although of course, we might still ask whether the production level increase has continued to the up to the mid 19th century. To some extent, it might have slowed down, but increase in scale of production was increasing, which means probably, the capital costs, the cost. In neoclassical sense, of course, the cost of means of production was also falling down. And that might create a scale effect, and that scale effect might be effective in increasing the demand for labor. Anyway, this is the analysis. Now we can look to the examples of the questions. How can we graphically find highest output level a company can produce with a fixed budget graphically? Well, basically this way. This way. We find the isoquant to which our budget line is tangent, and that the point at which this budget line and that isoquant intersects is the point that represents the optimal level of capital and labor. We can also tell it by saying that we should find the isoquant which intersects with at only one point with the budget line. It will come to the same. The result will be the same. Write a case in which labor demand of a company will increase in the long run. That might be the case if the labor productivity has increased. It might be the case if the wage has increased. It might be the case if the price of the product increases. It might be the case if it might be the case if the cost of capital has increased and the substitution effect dominates. It can be the case if the cost of capital has decreased and the scale effect dominates. For example, if the machinery becomes more cheaper and it creates sufficient level of increase in production level, this might basically increase them to offset the substitution of labor, the capital machinery with the labor. In that case, demand for labor might increase. Again, the scale effect dominates the substitution effect. That's why it created an increase in this case. When wages decrease, that's the obvious answer, I mean. What is the scale effect on the graph? It is the L2, L3. I mean, the lines are parallel, so there is no substitution effect. So the production level has increased since the isoquant represents here higher quantity. So L3 minus L2 is the scale effect. When are the workers in a company are exploited according to the neoclassical definition? If the wage paid to them is lower than the value of their marginal product, because the value of marginal product represents the wage they say deserve in according to mainstream economics. Assume a country is willing to increase the level of employment in agriculture in the short term. Write a policy that the country can use for this aim. Well, one solution could be providing cheap capital, which might, if the scale effect dominates, increase the labor demand. Although, of course, I mean that could be a little bit risky. It might also have the opposite effect. Another way to do it can be increasing labor productivity, maybe educating the workers or increasing the price of the product. The agricultural rural areas are producing, both of which might basically increase the labor demand. An alternative way might be also decreasing the wage, but that might also hurt the workers, but that's also a possible policy to achieve the same. Okay. Assume the table on the right shows the number of shoes produced per day in a shoe workshop for different levels of employment. Price of shoe is $2. Calculate the value of average product for every particular employment level. Marginal product then. Okay. Then we have a wage level. Okay, let's do that. Let's do from the scratch. Number of workers. And then we have total product. We will calculate then marginal product of labor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I believe, maybe 5, 6, 20, 35, 46. The first one is the same, 54, 58, because when you have 0 worker, you don't have any production. For the others, we just need to subtract this one from the previous one, I mean. So this is it. This is the marginal product of labor. Average product of labor is, I just divide the total product to the number of workers. So value of marginal product of labor and value of average product of labor is the case when I multiply the quantity with, what was the price? $2. Okay. What calculate how many workers will be this? I have done both 2 and 3. This is the value of marginal product. This is the value of average product. Of course, value of marginal product is lower than the value of average product. If you are confused, you might think why it is this way. Assume the wage level is $10 per day. How many workers will be hired? I mean, as long as value of marginal product is higher than 10, we will continue hiring. So we will stop hiring after we have hired 4 workers, since the value of marginal product of the 5th worker is less than 10. So we will hire 4 workers per day. Assume price of shoe is $2 wages and calculate the level of exploitation according to neoclassical definition for each employment level. Neoclassical definition, which means we are looking for the value of marginal product. So we subtract from this the wage. So for one worker, when we have only one worker working, it is 30. 2 workers working 20. 3 workers working 12. 4 workers working 6. 5 workers working. Now minus 2, which means actually now the workers are exploiting the capitalists. And 6 workers working minus 4, which means again the workers are exploiting the capitalists. So this is the end point. I'll stop here. I'll see you in the next video lecture, and as always, I hope you will stay healthy.